Good God.
Beware, I don't know where the projector went right there. So that might be the only screen that works today. If it's going to work for us. Okay, so the only screen that's going to work today is that screen. I don't know what happened to the projector. It disappeared.
That's kind of crazy for me. That's usually not. It is kind of amazing. This wasn't a move, actually. I was so
This screen is the only screen that works. So if you want to see the PowerPoint and the Kahoot,
What? What's wrong? Is it maybe some people will be sorry? So if I go to sleep in my bed, I might not wake up.
the projector. So, the screen doesn't work. I wish we could go back to our old room too. Okay, it is noon. We are going to get started because we have a lot to get through today, especially if we want to do the Kahoot at the end. So I may skip past some slides. I am warning all of you ahead of time. For those of you that don't like when I skip past slides, I want to make sure we have about 10 to 15 minutes to play the Kahoot at the end. Put your masks on. There are about 1,700 new cases today. 1,700 new cases. We're on track to be over 2,000 in probably the next couple of days. So get your masks on. Some of you are way far away, 6 feet away, but all of you in the center here need masks. So we have a test on Monday, just a reminder. So make sure you bring your computer because you will be taking it on the computer unless, of course, you ask for a paper copy. So if you want a paper copy, let me know because I usually only bring about 6 or 7 of them. So I want to make sure I have enough for everybody that wants a paper copy. I apologize. That screen's not working today. I don't know where the projector went, so we will just be using this screen. So we are going to start. So what is another reason people are motivated? Well, one of them is going to be to reach long-term goals. There are many basic psychosocial needs we have. And when we talk about psychosocial needs, they are that feeling to belong, to connect with other people. Some of the other needs we have are power, autonomy, achievement, and play. When we're talking about how we set and achieve our goals, there are going to be 4 main factors. First of all are the goals themselves. Are they achievable? If you are a sophomore in high school and you've never played football and you want to be a pro football player, is that a very achievable goal?
Yes.
Probably not. Even to be a really good football player, playing in Division I schools, your chances of being a pro football player are still not super great when we look at the percentages. Next is, do we have control over those goals? Can we meet those goals? Our sense of self-efficacy. Next, our ability to delay gratification. Even if we know it's a 5 to 10 year goal, can we do what we need to do during that time to meet our goals? If that means not going out and partying with our friends, is that something we're willing to do? Are we able to delay that gratification? And last but not least is grit. Can somebody tell me what grit means? Christian? Determination. Any other definitions? That's a good one. The ability to keep going when you face challenges. So even when people tell you you can't, having that grit to continue on anyways. Here is a really good example of grit. It's one of my favorite videos actually show. Hopefully it works. Can you hear it?
Stephen Curry, 6'3", 185 pounds.
I'm going to turn it up just a bit.
Position, point guard. Seven's explosiveness and athleticism are low standard. He's not a great finisher around the basket. He needs to considerably improve with the ball. Often struggles against physical defenders. Stephen must develop as a point guard when you're making the lead. You will have limited success at the next level. Do not rely on him to run your team.
So if anybody's watched any documentaries or videos on him, he kind of has this cool story. So even back when he was in middle school, high school, he has always worked his butt off. He stayed out on the court longer than other players have, has practiced longer, and put in that determination and grit he needed to become an outstanding player. But as you heard through that draft report, it pretty much just said he isn't going to make it in the NBA. He doesn't have the skills, and even if he does make it to the next level, don't rely on him to actually carry your team. And we found that to be the opposite, that he is actually a really excellent player and can help encourage and carry a team. So that takes a lot of grit. To get a report like that saying you'll never make it and to persevere through and continue on is what we call the definition of grit. And if you guys want to come over here, you can. That screen doesn't work today. I'm going to skip past this because it is not needed for the test. So we talk about the ability to delay gratification. One of the main studies that we talk about when we talk about delaying gratification is going to be the marshmallow study. This was Walter Mischel's famous marshmallow study, and how he worked with children. He said, here's a marshmallow. You can either eat it now, or if you wait a little bit, you can have 2 marshmallows when I come back. Some children are able to delay that gratification. Others decided that they were going to eat it right away. I am going to show you the video of the marshmallow study. Okay, so that's your, all right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then I'll watch it. Stay in here, stay in the chair, so I'll come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something, and I'll come back. It's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay. How'd you do? You did? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So they didn't give you none. Okay, thank you both. That little girl's like, whatever. I don't care about the other one. So that's just an example of the marshmallow study. Being able to delay gratification. As you saw with the 2 little girls that ate them pretty quickly, they were quite a bit younger. They looked to be in about that 2 to 3-year-old range. So for them, there isn't such thing as delaying gratification. They're toddlers. They are all about instant gratification. But when we saw those little boys and the other little girls in that probably 5 to 8-year-old range, they did okay. A lot of them picked at the marshmallows. Some licked it. Some smelt it. Think of how dirty those marshmallows were by the time they actually got to eat it, were my thoughts. But they did pretty good, especially that little boy that wanted to eat it so bad. He was able to delay gratification so that he was able to get that second marshmallow. And that's going to be really important when we talk about being able to reach our goals. So how do we experience emotions? So we talked about motives, and now we're going to talk about emotions. So when we talk about emotions, oftentimes they can be positive or negative. And our experience of them is going to be very personal. Sometimes we might find something funny that other people do not, or we might find something sad that other people find funny. So we can show the same response to either positive or negative emotions. For example, when we're sad, we cry, but have you ever laughed so hard that you've cried? Yes, so some of our emotions can work for both our positive and negative examples. And that shows a good example of these pictures. So in picture A, we see somebody crying because they're at a funeral. They're sad. Picture B, we see somebody crying because they're so happy and so excited about the fact that they got married. And we have two types of emotions. We have primary emotions and secondary emotions. When we talk about primary emotions, these are shared across cultures. So even if you were to go to a little village in Africa and show them pictures of emotions, they'd be able to identify these ones: anger, fear, sadness, disgust, happiness, and sometimes even surprise and contempt. So those are going to be primary emotions. Those are ones we see across all cultures. Secondary emotions that we aren't going to see across all cultures, and that might be culturally specific, are going to be a blend of those primary emotions. They include remorse, guilt, shame, submission, and anticipation. One model that we often use is going to be the circumplex model. So our experiences of emotions can be categorized by a certain degree of valence. So positive emotions, negative emotions, where are we on that spectrum? And that's going to be what we look at horizontally. And then our arousal level. Are we aroused? Are we in a neutral state of arousal? Or are we not aroused? For example, excitement has a positive valence and a high arousal. Whereas if a person's going to be depressed, oftentimes they're going to have a negative valence and it's going to be low arousal. And we have many other emotions in between. So our horizontal one is going to be negative to positive, and then how aroused are you? How much energy are we giving off at that specific point in time? We have three main theories that we talk about to help explain our emotions. First off is going to be the James Lange theory. And our emotions are the result from experiences of psychological reactions in the body. So when we experience a stimulus, we have a bodily response. Then you feel the emotion. So your body response is going to come first, and then due to that bodily response, we're going to be able to have an emotion because of it. This leads to the facial feedback hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, the muscles used to create a facial expression trigger your experience of emotion. So if you find yourself smiling at something, your body identifies your emotion as being happy because of that facial feature of us smiling. Have you ever done something that you don't really enjoy doing, but they always say just grin and bear it? The reason they say that is because if you smile, according to the James Lange theory, you are going to start to feel happy because the expression on your face leads your brain to believe that you are in a happy state. So James Lange theory, remember, whatever expression is going on is what leads to your emotion. Next, we have the Cannon-Bard theory. According to this theory, when you experience a stimulus, the information is then processed in your brain. Simultaneously, you feel the emotion and the bodily reaction at the same point in time. So with the James Lange theory, we have the bodily reaction first and then the emotion. Cannon-Bard theory, we are going to simultaneously feel the emotion and our bodily reaction at the same time. So we see a bear approaching us, our brain takes in that information, recognizes that there is something there, our heart starts pumping, and we feel fear at the same time. So they happen simultaneously when we talk about the Cannon-Bard theory. Last but not least is the two-factor theory. According to this theory, when you experience a stimulus, you have a bodily response. Then you apply an emotional label to explain the feelings. Finally, you feel the emotion brought on by the situation. One of the common things that we talk about when we talk about the two-factor theory is going to be the misattribution of arousal. So misattribution of arousal, there's an experiment where they had men walk across this big, scary bridge. At the end of the bridge was a female. Men that had to walk across the big, scary bridge were more attracted to the female experimenter on the bridge than those that walked across a safer bridge. So the reason they found this is that the men that walked across the big, scary bridge started to have an emotional response. You know, their heart was beating, they started sweating, they might have been a little excited, their arousal level was high. So when they saw this female at the end of the bridge, their brain attributed all of those bodily responses to the female at the end, which made them seem more attractive. Those men that walked across the safe bridge didn't have the same level of bodily arousal, and therefore they didn't feel as attracted to the person because their brain didn't comprehend that the reason they're excited is because the person at the end of the bridge. And that is what we call excitant transfer. So sometimes our emotions make us feel more attracted to somebody because our brain interprets it that it's attraction and not this current situation that we are in. So I think this is a really cool map. This is a map of emotion that represents areas of the body that are more active or less active when we go through different emotions. So when we look at the warm colors, the yellows, the reds, those are going to be more active when we're in certain stages. Have you ever been so angry that you can literally feel like your ears and your nose and your head on fire? I'm seeing some people, I have been so angry at times or so upset with, not here, but with a coworker, that my head was literally on fire, like ready to blow. But has anybody ever felt sadness? Your body might feel cold, but oftentimes your heart is working really hard. Think about a broken heart. You might feel warm in the chest area, but the rest of your body is going to feel cold. And when we talk about love and happiness, you get the warm tinglies all over. Well, literally, when you look at this picture, that area of our body is more active. Happiness, our entire body lights up. Love, almost our entire body except our legs light up. So when they talk about the warm, tingly feelings, literally, our body has that warm, tingly feeling. But when we're in a neutral state, we are almost colorless. But think how often are you actually in a neutral state? I'm guessing most of us, maybe if you practice meditation, yoga, are able to clear your mind, but otherwise, we probably have some sort of feeling or emotion going on at any given point in time. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide, but you want to know what rumination is. So rumination involves thinking about, elaborating, and focusing on undesired thoughts and feelings. So when something bad happens, just sitting there and thinking about it over and over and over again is an example of rumination. So thinking about the same concept over and over is technically what rumination is. So make sure you know that one for the test. Humor. It's important that we laugh. Do you know how many times a day a child laughs? How many? 200? A lot? About 400 times a day. Children laugh 400 times a day. So that is almost constantly. My 3-year-old is always laughing. She finds herself hilarious all the time, which makes me laugh because it's so cute. What about adults? How many times do adults laugh a day? 3, 10. This is kind of a dull group if we're only laughing 3 times a day. 17. Children laugh 400 times a day. Once we get into adulthood, we are only laughing about 17 times a day. That is sad. We are laughing so much less than children. Listen up, guys, so we can try and get through these. We still have about 11 slides before Kahoot. So as adults, we need to try to laugh harder probably. Whether it's watching funny videos, spending time with people that make us happy, but to go from 400 to 17 times a day, we can see why there's so many depressed people. Laughter helps our immune system, our hormones, and it decreases our pain perception. So there are so many reasons why we should laugh. And oftentimes when we're ruminating, something we can try and do is distract ourselves, so engaging in a different activity. But what can happen if we distract ourselves during rumination is sometimes we get a bound back effect where we start to think about whatever we were ruminating on even more often. So we have to be careful with distraction, especially when we talk about rumination. So how do emotions affect us? So Charles Darwin argued that expressive aspects of emotion are adaptive because they communicate how we are feeling. I am a person that is very expressive when it comes to how I feel. I am not good at hiding my feelings if somebody would say something dumb. I get kind of that face like, are you kidding me right now? What's been really great with masks is nobody can see your face or your mouth. And our mouth is one of our most expressive parts of our body. I'm not good at hiding my feelings, but thanks to a mask, I can hide a lot of my feelings right now. So I am very expressive. Most of our emotions and people reading our faces are going to come from our eyes and our mouth. So I've noticed even though I'm wearing a mask, if I smile at someone, oftentimes it seems like they smile back. And you can tell by the way that their eyes move when they smile. Whether or not it's a genuine smile or not, that depends. But it's not just our eyes and our mouth. It's also going to be our body movements. When you look at these two pictures, he has the exact same expression in both pictures. But when you look at picture A, what kind of an emotion do you see from him? Confused, bored, depression, sadness. But what if you look at picture B? What do we see? Fear. And that's because he kind of has that fearful stance that we're used to seeing in movies. So remember, we talked about those main feelings of emotion. So sadness, anger, contempt, disgust, surprise, and fear. And here, they describe to you what we see in the eyes and what we see in the mouth. Has anybody watched the show Lie to Me? Okay, Lie to Me was a show on Fox. I think there's only 2 or 3 seasons, and you can either watch it on Netflix or Hulu. But it's all about this guy and how he's able to tell if people are lying or not. He's a detective based on their facial expressions and body language. It is super fascinating. It's a fake show, of course, but if you like psychology and studying body language and facial expressions, make sure you go and check it out. It's called Lie to Me. So when we look at all these pictures, what emotion are they showing? Happiness. The smile is showing us that all of these people are happy. And research has found that we are able to identify happiness in other cultures. That is the strongest one. We have a harder time distinguishing fear and disgust in other cultures though. So when we look at fear and disgust, nose is wrinkling typically with disgust, and the upper lip is raised. Fear, on the other hand, eyebrows are raised and pulled together. I don't know if I do that when I'm fearful. Are your eyebrows raised and pulled together when you're scared? I'm trying to do it and I'm not sure if it's working. Raised upper eyelids, tense lower eyelids, and lips slightly stretched horizontally back towards the ears. I don't think I look like that when I'm scared. I don't know how anybody else feels, but that is why they say that when we're talking about fear and disgust, those emotions are harder to distinguish compared to sadness, contempt, surprise, anger, and of course, happiness. Another emotion that we have found to be similar across cultures is going to be pride. So these people are from two different cultures, but they have the same emotion and body language in both pictures. Typically, when somebody is prideful, they're going to have a smiley face, raised arms like that, yeah, we won, an expanded chest, and a pushed out torso. Think about all the times you see basketball players win a game, soccer players. Oftentimes, this is a stance that we see commonly among sports athletes or people that are really prideful about something that they have accomplished. So one thing you want to be aware of is our emotions affect decision-making and judgments. Our feelings affect how we judge information and make decisions about it. For example, if you're happy when you're talking about or holding a product, you are more likely to buy that product. So let's say you go and test drive a car. You're in a really good mood that day, you're excited, it's a great day. When you go and drive that car, you're going to put those emotions into that experience and you're going to be more likely to buy that car. You're going to be more likely to think, this car makes me happy. I'm excited in this car. I need to buy this car. Compared to if you're having a bad day, you're crabby, nothing's going right, but you decide to go test drive cars, those negative emotions are going to transfer over to that test driving experience and you're going to be a lot less likely to go and buy a car. So, moral of the story is, when you're going to make a big purchase, make sure you are in a neutral emotional state versus either being happy or sad, because your chances of then purchasing that item are either going to go up or down based on how you're feeling that day. Which talked about that. And then, of course, is guilt. Guilt is going to be a negative emotional state that we associate with anxiety, tension, and agitation. Guilt is one that is difficult to talk about when we're talking about cross-culturally. As we said, some of the emotions that aren't as easily to identify, guilt, embarrassment, and they're not really studied when we talk about mainstream psychological science. We're much more likely to study anger, happiness. We're not as likely to study guilt. And that is what we have. So make sure you take a look at your key points in your chapters before we study. So use your first name and last initial when you type in your name for the Kahoot, because I am going to give everybody 1 bonus point just for having the grit and motivation to come to class this far into the semester. Because I appreciate you all coming and making it over here, especially with all the challenges we've had in switching a classroom. So just for being here today, and for those of you online can do the same thing, you will get 1 bonus point. And then I will still give bonus points on top of that for our top 3 winners. So use your first name and last initial so I can do that. The internet in here must be a little slow. Turn it down a bit. Is there anybody in here that's still logging on? Raise your hand. Hang on, okay. We're good? Okay. Ooh, remembering how to ice skate is most likely an example of blank memory. So, knowing how to do something is going to be a procedural type memory. So riding a bike, procedural type memory. When explaining the purpose of homeostasis, Dr. Murphy would most likely suggest that it So homeostasis is trying to get the body back to that neutral state. So when we're hot, we start sweating. When we're cold, we start shivering. So getting our body back to a natural state. Using algorithms in decision making has the advantage of blank and the disadvantage of blank. Okay, so I'm going to explain both of these because you'll want to know both of them. So algorithms is going to be taking a problem step by step and going through every possible solution to get the right answer. So the good thing is it's always going to work, but to get through every possible solution, it is going to take a lot of time and effort in order to do so. A heuristic, on the other hand, when we use a heuristic, that is a quick and easy way to think of an answer. So it's going to require very minimal thinking. The bad part about a heuristic is sometimes our heuristics can be wrong. They might not apply to that situation. So algorithms are always going to work, but you're going to have to think about them. Heuristics, they require minimal thinking, which is great, but they're not always going to work. You're not always going to get the right answer. So make sure you know the difference between an algorithm and a heuristic.
Let's go.
That was a big change. Inattention and the shallow encoding of events can often result in blank, which leads to forgetting. So when we talk about inattention and shallow encoding, we're virtually talking about not paying attention. You're not paying attention, and therefore you're just absent-minded because you didn't even take in the information to begin with. Number 6. Jake is choosing his major from 3 different alternatives: biology, Spanish, or psychology. Jake is using decision making. He is making a choice between 3 options. Riley, raise your hand. I never know who's who because we don't have the name tags. He has a little fire next to him, so somebody needs to catch up to Riley. Number 6, the main concept of general intelligence theory is that Sternberg is the one that developed the G factor. And when we talk about the G factor, we're talking about one underlying intelligence. So one factor underlies all intelligence. It's also known as general intelligence, or the G factor. Then, of course, it can branch off into other areas. But typically, when we talk about general intelligence, we're talking about that overall IQ score. Number 7, Ekman and colleagues found that several emotions are common to people around the world, including all of the following except which one was not on the list? We just went over this like 5 minutes ago. Who was paying attention? We did pretty good. Go back and make sure you look at those pictures of that guy with all the different facial expressions. He goes over the main ones. Number 8, when solving a problem using insight, the solution is reached. Remember, this is that candlestick with a box of tacks and a box of matches. How did we stick it to the wall? So insight learning, another way to remember insight learning is it's those aha moments. So insight learning, aha moments, like when it just comes to you like a light switch. Uh-oh. Where's Olivia? Olivia's taking Riley down. A person who has experienced the loss of past memories may be experiencing past memories. So when we think about retro, when you think of the word retro, oftentimes you're going to think of things in the past. I just want to point out when we're talking about interference, retroactive interference and proactive interference is when new learning or old learning impacts how you take in the new information. So interference links to learning. Number 10. George Miller discovered that short-term memory is limited to blank plus or minus blank items for chunks of information. So when we talk about short-term memory, remember it's the magic 7. The magic 7 plus or minus 2. Ooh, last one. Number 11, which of the following is the memory storage that very briefly maintains the physical characteristics of a stimulus? Very briefly. Okay. Sensory memory is going to be things we take in through our eyes, our ears. Sensory memory is often those sparklers. Remember when you see that after image of a sparkler? That is because of our sensory memory. Flashbulb memories, those are going to be those flashbulb moments. When we talked about flashbulb moments, for me, it's 9/11. For some of you, it was Kobe Bryant dying. When we finally figure out who the president's going to be, that might be a flashbulb moment. So it's those very impactful moments that we can remember very vividly and that last a long time. So, Abigail gets a bonus point. Sally gets 2. And then who took 1? Olivia. Good job, everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, bring your computer on Monday, and we will have our exam. Have a great weekend, everybody. Goodbye to all of those of you at home.
Thank you. Thank you.